Hi. In this video, we'll answer some of our most commonly asked questions around Social Security, like when am I eligible and when should I start drawing Social Security for me? And then we'll give you some strategies on how you can maximize your Social Security payout in 2024. Welcome to Alchemist Wealth Money Talks. And today we are talking about how to maximize your Social Security in 2024. I'm really excited to have this conversation. We work with some retired folks, and a lot of times Social Security, how to maximize Social Security, when to take it, how does it work, is one of the areas that they ask us a lot of questions, but also an area that we see some more education would be really great. So for most retirees, Social Security is actually their largest asset going into retirement. It is a place that they paid into for decades. And so strategies to maximize it, doing it well, how to understand it, and how to make sure that you get the most out of your pension or your Social Security is really important. So we'll jump through and start talking through some of the questions. Before we do that, Fred, anything you want to say about Social Security or coming into this conversation?
No, I think it's not very well understood.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to it that, people should understand that it's a big part of people's future. So
let's dive in. Number one question, when am I eligible for Social Security? And so when a person pays into Social Security and they can decide when to take it, they are eligible starting at age 62. So once you turn 62 years old, if you're in the Social Security system, you can start pulling out your Social Security. All the way up until age 70, you can start pulling out Social Security. Now, it works just like most other pensions. Social Security is a pension that you've been paying into, where the longer you wait to turn on the income or draw your Social Security, the higher the payout amount is. And so from age 62 to your full retirement age, which is usually age 66 or age 67, from that gap, it usually goes up annually somewhere between 5 to 7%. But once you hit your full retirement age, 66, 66 and a half, 67, up till age 70, it actually goes up 8%. So you are incentivized to wait longer to take it. But depending on your situation, whether you should wait or not is a case-by-case basis. So, but it does increase as it goes. The earliest is 62, and the latest you should turn it on is age 70.
What age do you encourage or recommend people to start to draw?
Yeah. What age do you start? So it depends, right? I'll say this. One of the things that frames the conversation is typically Social Security breaks even at around age 81, 82. So if you start earlier at 62, it's less money, but you get it for a longer period of time. If you pull it at 70, it's more money, right? We said 5 to 7% more from age 62 to full retirement, and then 8% up until age 70. But you draw it for less years. So the math says that if you live less than age 80, 81, maybe you should start it earlier. Or if you have a life expectancy where, you might have a heart condition or you might have diabetes, or you might, in your family, folks usually die earlier. It might make sense to draw it earlier and take it for a longer period of time. Definitely if you die in your 60s and early 70s, that makes sense from a maximizing standpoint. But if you have longevity in your family, if you're decently healthy going into your 60s, and you can afford not to draw your Social Security, that's important. You have other assets to live on. Maybe you're still working and healthy and feel good and enjoy work, or earning enough to live on. Then it makes sense for you to wait until later, 66, 68, 70. Because once you get past age 80, it's all extra, right? If you live another 10 years until you're 90 years old, which is where a lot of our plans, we're running them to age 90, then from 80 to 90, you're actually making more money. All that is actually profit from waiting longer to draw out your Social Security. So it depends on your situation. It depends on your income need. It depends on your health. It also depends on your spouse and if you have a spouse. And so we'll talk about that a little bit later. But that it usually is a case by case basis on when's the best time to start pulling for you.
Gotcha. So, and I don't explaining how much will I get? I guess that goes into at what age you should start receiving.
Yeah.
Which are, I mean, there's a lot of different factors that go into it, because it may not make sense for everybody to wait until 67. It may not make sense for people to wait till 70. It just depends on different situations.
Yeah.
But once you factor and think through the different situations, and I guess what goes into those situations is how much will I get? So
Yeah.
can you talk through that a little bit? How much do people receive from Social Security?
Yeah, it does vary. And the reason it varies is because just like most pensions, it depends on how much you earned. It depends on how much you paid in. So for the Social Security system, they take your 35 highest earning years to calculate your Social Security benefit. So, and they adjust it for inflation, right? Because making 50,000 in 1989 is different than making 50,000 in 2019. But so they adjust for inflation, but that's your base, right? Your 35 highest years. So if you only work 30 years, then you have 5 years that are coming through as zeros. So, thinking about how much you get, if you have less than 35 years, it might make sense for you to work a few extra. That usually happens if people, have significant time out of the system. But they're going to take your 35 highest earning years, adjusted for inflation, and that's going to be your full retirement payout base, right? Not the total amount, but then they put it in a formula, and that's your full retirement payout at age 66 to 67. So then we're talking about reducing that down if we start taking at 62, and then increasing that up if we wait until age 70. So depending on your earning history, depending on how many years, how high it is put into your base, and then they adjust it from then. One of the things we tell all of our folks, and I'll just say everyone here, you should log on to SSA.gov, the Social Security site, and pull your earning history. Pull it down, see how many earning years you have, see what it says is your full payout for that year. And then it does give you estimates on what your full retirement payout they estimate would be, what it looks like at 62, what it looks like if you wait until age 70. But everyone can pull that. It's usually a pretty easy thing to pull down and see. And then you'll be able to see what it looks like if you were to walk away with zeros versus, adding some more years on to retirement. So case by case on the payouts. I've seen it as low as 1,300. I've seen it as high as 3,800 a month of payout.
Yeah, and that's important. And thinking through, because I think a lot of people have the mindset that 62 they're going to retire and draw Social Security, and I don't know if they know that full retirement age 67, right? And what that means is if you draw at 62, for each year that you're drawing, you're making 5% less, or they're paying you 5% less. So at 62, that's 70% of the full benefit. And then at each year that you continue to not draw Social Security increases by 5% up to 100. But then, as he mentioned, once you get past 67, for each year that you don't draw up to 70, it maxes out at 70. It's an additional 8% each year that they'll pay out. So
yeah, that's good money, right? So it does pay to wait, but it's definitely case by case basis. One of the things that I remember very vividly is advising an older client, the spreadsheet said they should wait, right? So they should definitely wait. You know, it was worth so much more. And this was earlier on in my career. And so having them not take Social Security at 62 and having them pass away in their mid 60s, right? And so as I think about how we didn't really factor in life expectancy, I wish we would have got more family information and how old his parents were and if he had siblings and just any physical parts of that, because maybe he would have been able to retire earlier, start drawing Social Security directly at 62 and have a higher quality life for those last years, if we would have known kind of some of those different factors. So it is a case by case idea to make sure that you're taking those things into account. And then if you're working with a financial advisor or you're getting a projection from your job in the 401k, that you're running that through somebody where you're putting a lens on of life expectancy for you and your spouse. That definitely matters.
So thinking through some of the different things that matter, life expectancy, if the man or woman in your family live until 80 or 90, then you might make a different decision based on
Yep.
when you draw, when you don't. What are some other things to consider other
Yeah.
than
Life expectancy. You should really consider your other assets, right? If you have a retirement portfolio with or a 401k, 403b, another pension, we should really consider those things. There are some strategies where you can start living on your investment portfolio earlier and not need your Social Security to delay, and then you start drawing your Social Security later because you have other accounts to live on. We should also take into account how much of your Social Security replaces your income. Ideally, the Social Security system is built for Social Security to place about 55%, and that a portfolio or some other income replaces the other 45%. So we really need to understand, based on your expenses, how much of Social Security covers that. And the higher, the better, obviously, right? If we can have that. And if we need to wait years because it doesn't cover enough of our income, right? If it's 55% at age 67, but if you start pulling at 63, it's only 35% of your income. So we're going to need to try to replace 65% of your income with other things, and we don't have them, then that just means we might have to wait. The other thing is whether you're planning on completely retiring outright. A lot of folks are stepping down. So they're going from working high stress corporate jobs, nonprofit jobs, government jobs, where they're making 95,000 to what would it look like for me to make 50,000 for a few years? What would it look like for me to step down, work less hours, have less stress, not necessarily draw on Social Security yet, but maybe live and earn and get by on that amount. I might not be saving more money. I might let my investment account grow another 5 years, but we got to take that into account, whether you're going straight non-working cold turkey or if you're taking a step down, working less hours, earning a little bit less money, or getting a consulting contract if you're in that space as well.
What does it look like when you work as far as the ability to draw on Social Security?
So you can draw on Social Security as soon as you're eligible. If you continue working, you'll have a higher taxable income usually. So there are thresholds of earning where your Social Security benefit is taxed. And there's a higher likelihood that if you are working and you are drawing Social Security, that a higher percentage of your Social Security will be taxed. So that's a factor that we need to take into account. That's one of the biggest ones, is just netting less of your Social Security benefit. The other thing that's not really Social Security, but kind of, if you continue working, is Medicare. So you can continue your own employer supplied health insurance until you stop working. So for most people, you have to take your Medicare draw at 65, but if you're working at 67, 68, and you have an employer sponsored plan and you like it, you don't have to turn on your Social Security. You can keep yours. And then once you actually step away fully, or no longer have company sponsored health insurance, then you have a window where you go and apply for Social Security then, or go apply for Medicare then. So, but that is a big piece. If you're going to keep working, health insurance is a really big piece that we need to talk about as well.
Gotcha. Let's see, two more pieces that we'll talk through, and they kind of blend together sometimes.
Yeah.
Can. The first being the spousal benefit. Can you talk a little bit about how that works, what it looks like, all those things?
Yeah. So you are eligible to receive 50% of your spouse's Social Security at full retirement age. So when you pull the statement down for your spouse, let's say if my wife had a Social Security of $4,000 a month payout at full retirement age, I could get a payout for $2,000 starting. I have to be at least 62 years old to pull it, and they have to be receiving their Social Security, but they could be pulling 4 and I could be pulling 2 just by their earning years. So that's a big deal if there's a stay-at-home spouse or someone who has a lower of the 2 earning history according to Social Security, that my payout might be $1,200 myself, but the spousal of my spouse might be $2,000. So I'll take that one. It's very common tactic that you can start taking your spousal early. Like I just said, if it's $4,000 for them and I'm at least 62, I take $2,000. And I said before, mine is $1,300, $1,400, but it increases over time. So I can take the spousal benefit starting at 62 and then wait and let mine get higher than that by age 70 and then start taking that when I turn 70 years old. So that step up is really helpful to defer one of them if we have one that has a higher earning or one of the partners that has that's significantly older. So they're at full and you're kind of just getting 262. Spousal benefits wonderful, and I do find a lot of people misunderstand that. And we have some strategies where we're really trying to figure out what's the optimum years for each of you with your own unique full retirement payout. What's the best strategy to draw for each of you?
I think that's also a big piece to consider about when to wait, when not to wait. Just factoring in both spouses' benefit and how they can work together to help make better decisions.
Yeah, it's really big. It's a big factor. The spousal benefit factoring is one of the reasons why I highly recommend that a couple going through that advise with an advisor, right? Seek help there, because that's something that's really not commonly known. And there's some advisors that don't really know how to do that as well. So make sure that your advisor, as you're going into retirement, is factoring in spousal benefits, survivor benefits as well.
Speaking of survivors benefits, tell us about it.
Yeah, so for the survivor benefit, if the spouse passes away, you're eligible for their benefit, their full payout. So back to that scenario, I have my wife, it's 4,000. I'm taking the spousal at 2. She passes away. My benefit becomes 4, right? I could take the higher of the 2. And so that becomes really important for, like we said, higher payout benefits, different gaps in age as well. The other thing is if you're married and divorced and you were married for at least 10 years, and there's some caveats, but you can have the spousal or survivor benefit of the previous, your previous partner. And so you can't have remarried. There's some caveats to that, but there's some folks who are widowed, divorced, and can still benefit from the earning years of their spouse.
Yeah, I guess I'll share a personal story.
Please.
Instagram. Yeah. AITA, am I the a-hole? She was getting benefits. I don't think it was Social Security benefits, but similar benefits from having divorced. Her new person wanted to marry. She's like, nah, man, you crazy. Like, so yeah, just stuff to think about. Stuff that.
Yeah, I'm set. What's my benefit versus my ex-spouse's benefit? In the spousal, 50% of that one, maybe I take that one. I get the step up when they pass. Like what, all of those things need to be considered. And then we also consider that with the spousal benefit, if we have let's say not exes, right? Existing, and they're about even, right? So let's say we were both at 3,000 for our payouts, which means that if one of us passes away, the other one doesn't get an increase in Social Security. So if we're running our household on both of those Social Securities, we need to know that if one of us passes away, we lose $3,000 of income every month. And so if we don't have another way of replacing that, then that's when life insurance makes a lot of sense for retirees as they go into retirement, if they're going to lose a significant Social Security if one of them passes. So another factor to be considering as you go into retirement and figuring out when to draw, how to draw, housing, insurance, investments, all of those things alike.
A lot of this is tailored toward pre-retiree clients, early retired clients, getting into the late 50s, early 60s ages as far as making these decisions. People in their 30s and 40s. What are some things when it relates to Social Security that they should be considering now, if anything?
Yeah, just get your 35 years in, right? Most people are working from 20, if you go to college, so early 20s and drawing at 62. So that's 42 years, right? That most people are working. But if you are taking significant time out of the workforce, not contributing to Social Security, not paying payroll taxes, whether you're stay at home or going back to school or whatever that is, you should know that, right? Because just know that you need to get your 35 years in, right? And even if it's a part-time job at $20,000, $40,000, it's a lot bigger of a calculation than getting a zero. So just make sure, I would say everybody who's listening to this should pull your earnings statement from Social Security to check to see what it is. And then also, if it's inaccurate for any reason, updating it, right? Because we want to make sure that we're getting credit for all of the payroll taxes we paid, all the contributions we made to the Social Security system.
Yeah. 35 years. No, they're taking your highest 35 years, right? So try to earn a lot of money, whatever that means. But also, you'll want to make sure you have other streams of income. And that's something that we talk through and discuss. Yes, this is a part of your retirement plan, but you'll want to have other streams of income or sources of income to I guess mitigate cost of living. So
Agree.
let's
Definitely.
see if you have parents, I would say it would help for you to understand I guess the percentages of how much income they'll get. All our parents, I would say, want to retire at 62. All our parents, I would say, want to retire at 50, right? But just have those conversations with them. Like, if you know they want to retire early, talk through it with them, make sure they understand and make sure you understand, like, hey, at age 62, you're only receiving 70% of the benefit. What is the benefit? Have you talked to anybody about this to help you make this decision? Because some people hear, yeah, I can draw at 62, and so that's what they do. But you're missing out on money. So
yeah. And it affects you, right? A lot of folks are going to be caring for their parents. A lot of folks are going to be paying for care and helping them financially as they age, which is beautiful. So helping them to make the best financial decisions, specifically going into retirement, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year from actually walking away. The more solid their plan, the more solid it can be for you. So I completely agree. And it goes for me, right? I'll share. My first time looking at retirement planning and pension decisions was with our dad when he went to retire, and I was shocked by two things. The first thing that shocked me was just how um, scarce the resources were through the company for helping him make the pension decisions. I expected there to be more. I expected there to be more help offered. Honestly, I think it was like one session and a couple sessions, and these are long-lasting, long-term decisions. So I was just shocked by the lack of information, and then I was just shocked by the lack of attention that folks get as they transition into retirement into this space. So a lot of companies offer it, but and organizations offer it kind of by obligation. But is it good? Is it accurate? Is it comprehensive? I would say getting a retirement plan, even if it's 2, 3, 4, 5 grand, is worth it, because we're usually talking about millions of dollars of decisions between housing, healthcare, pension, Social Security, investments. So it's a retirement plan going into retirement, I think, is worth the money every time.
Yeah. Along the lines of, I think this is kind of piggybacking off of making sure you have additional streams of income when you get to retirement, if you're in your 30s now, right, or in your 40s now, right? When you're thinking of your plan, and when you're thinking of drawing on your saved dollars or your retirement plan dollars, try to grow it to the point to where if you can sustain without drawing until your age 67 due, right? Like don't just have in your mind, if you can, right? Don't just have in your mind like, okay, all my money I'm gonna be pulling at age 62.
Right.
Like just set your time horizon at, if you can set it at 70 and that makes sense because you'll live a little longer, try to set it at 70. If you can make it to 67, try to make it to 67, but just have a different vision for when you want to pull on some additional dollars and use additional income to try to help increase how much you'll receive in Social Security, as far as the overall picture goes.
Agree. Couldn't agree more. Well, I'll say, I hope this is helpful. If you are in the space or you know someone in the space that are making their Social Security decisions, making their retiring decisions, we'd love to meet them and help. We have a passion about this piece, and I think it's really, really important. So feel free to reach out. If you have questions, in the comments of the YouTube video, if you're viewing this on LinkedIn, in the comments, ask questions. We'd love to answer. And then, like I said, if you know somebody going into that, that should meet us or that should at least have this conversation, send them this video. So give them the education, and then we'd love to meet them.
If you enjoyed that video, be sure to subscribe. If you want to learn more about how we serve our clients, visit our website at www.alchemistwealth.com.
On the way to being free.